Hello everyone, welcome to a new video, and this one is going to be a fun one because I'm going to be talking about all of the autumnal spooky books that I want to read, and most of these books are going to be physical books, which you can probably see in the background. There's just like towers of books behind me, and some of them are also on like my Kindle that I want to read because I don't have the physical copies. Now, there are around 20 books and I'm not going to read all of these this October, but they're just books that I want to read sometime in October. That's just my camera cover, I'll just keep that aside. I have like a cozy candle in the background and an ASMR room going on, and I'm just in the perfect autumnal mood that I can be in India at least. So yeah, let's just get started and let's talk about all the spooky and cozy autumnal books. Oh, and I feel like I'm going to say autumnal a lot, so forgive me, but let's get started. So the very first book is The Haunting of Hill House by Shirley Jackson, and I have this stunning edition with black sprayed edges. It's just the most beautiful book I own. It's the Penguin Horror edition, and I feel like everybody knows about this story, and this is also a Netflix TV show which I haven't yet watched, and I really want to watch it, but I'm planning to read this first and watch it, and hopefully I plan to actually read this October, so before the end of October. It is 25th October now, and I'm hoping to read it around Halloween. So I'm really excited for this. I don't feel like I need to say the synopsis of this. I'm not going to mention the synopsis of all the classics I mentioned just because they are classics. So I feel like most of the people know the gist of the story at least. But yeah, this is a horror story and just sounds so much fun. The next book I have is another classic, and that is We Have Always Lived in the Castle by Shirley Jackson again, and this one is just a stunning edition. It's the Penguin Deluxe edition with like deckled edges, and I had got both of these books together. There's Honey's hair on here, and it's just so beautiful again. I wanted to read this year as well, but let's see how that goes. It's just again another beautiful eerie story. I think there's even a show on this one, I'm not sure, but yeah. Okay, the third book, and I feel like I have all the most beautiful editions here, but that is Dracula by Bram Stoker, and just look at this edition. It is so beautiful, and I've been wanting to read this during October as well, but I still haven't picked it up. This month has just been super busy, so I've not read all that much, but I really hope to read it sometime in October, if not this year then later on. And I will link all the book links down in the video description from where I got them, but yeah, that's the third book. Again, another classic, so I don't need to say much, but so I feel like I'm tackling a lot of classics, and I'm going to go to the next classic, and that is Frankenstein. And I have this beautiful penguin cloth-bound edition. This is so beautiful. Gavin actually also has the Penguin Deluxe edition of Frankenstein, which is also a really stunning edition. But yeah, this is another classic that I want to read that is, I feel, perfect for Halloween again. And I just feel like this edition is gorgeous. And Frankenstein is also kind of a science fiction, which I really do love science fiction. So yeah, I'm just really pumped to read it whenever I do get around it. Then I have another classic, which is Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte. I keep getting mixed with the Bronte sisters, but this edition is again another beautiful Penguin Deluxe edition, and I actually also have the Penguin Cloth-bound edition for this book. But yeah, this is another book that I really want to read, and actually Books with Chloe has been recently reading this, and that's why I'm even more pumped to read this now. But yeah, and I feel like this book has like the most perfect gothic vibes from what I've heard, so I'm just so stoked to read it. Stoked. Bram Stoker. Then we have the next classic, and that is Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte, which is another Bronte sister, and this is again the Penguin cloth-bound edition. So stunning. I also own the Penguin Deluxe edition for this one, and also the Penguin leather edition. I just like collected a lot of editions of this because it's just such a stunning book. And I had read a little bit of this book actually, and I had really loved the writing style, so I just went a little crazy, but that's fine. So yeah, that is the other book I want to read. Again, I want to read Jane Eyre because as far as I've heard about it, it is another like spooky book, and it's kind of like Rebecca. I had loved Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier, so I'm just really pumped to read this, and I feel like I actually will love it from what I've at least read and heard of it. Then the next classic, I just keep talking about classics, I'm so sorry, but this is Northanger Abbey by Jane Austen. This is actually a vintage classics edition, and it is so beautiful. I just love the black and white on this. And this one is actually one of like the gothic books that Jane Austen has written, which is why I decided to mention it, because all of her other classics are more of like romance books, but this one I'm really stoked to read about because of the gothic elements in it. It is supposed to be kind of a parody, I feel, on gothic books. Let's see how I find that. But yeah, that is the classic, the last classic, I feel. I mean, I do have some modern classics by Daphne du Maurier, but yeah, that is by Jane Austen. So next we have something kind of a middle grade now, and that is The Graveyard Book by Neil Gaiman. I actually picked up this book from the book sale, which is why the cover isn't all that great, but it has some really beautiful illustrations. Just look at that. It just looks beautiful. So as far as I know about this book, it is about this boy whose family gets murdered by this like murder, and the boy, like, he's a baby and he escapes into the grave, and then these ghosts or spirits in the graveyard look after the baby, and that's how it goes as far as I know. And it does sound like a perfect spooky middle grade read for the October season, which is why I decided to put it in my list. And I feel like I really should have picked this up and read it because it's a middle grade. I could have read it really quick, but oh well. I'll hopefully pick it up soon, and it just looks or sounds beautiful. Since I talked about Neil Gaiman, I'll also talk about the other book that I do not really own a physical copy of, but that is Coraline by Neil Gaiman. I really want to buy this one and read it as well. So Coraline is again another kind of like a spooky story about this girl who finds this like doorway, I think, into another world where she like meets this mother kind of who has like buttons for eyes and everything. It just sounds so spooky and weird. That's all I know about it. I've not like read the synopsis. I just heard about it in a reading vlog, and it sounds so spooky and creepy, and that again sounds like a wonderful read to read during October or just like for Halloween. The next book I have is Jamaica Inn by Daphne du Maurier, and this cover is just stunning. So basically this is about a girl, Mary, whose mother dies, and she has to move to an inn, which is the Jamaica Inn, which is owned by her aunt, I believe. And strange things start happening there, and there are like all these, like a gang of criminals, and she like gets swept into this like dark world. And it does sound like a really good October read. It's actually set at the beginning of November, which is why I am going to be reading it after Halloween, hopefully this year. But yeah, since I'm talking about Daphne du Maurier, I thought I'll even talk about My Cousin Rachel, which is also kind of a spooky book, and I've heard this compared to like Rebecca. Not like it's same as Rebecca, but the setting is spooky again. And from what I've read from the synopsis, there's Philip, who is raised by his cousin Ambrose, and then Ambrose wants to make Philip his heir because he has this like Cornish estate that he wants Philip to basically look after. And then he goes out to France, I believe. Yeah, no, Florence. He goes to Florence, and then he meets this woman, and he dies under suspicious circumstances. And Philip basically then meets his widow. I feel like he also marries this like girl in Florence. I'm sorry, this is so confusing. And then like the widow comes back, and Philip finds himself attracted to this widow, and it's just a little bit of a spooky setting where you know, this widow could actually be like the murderer, I feel. I mean, that's what the story is hinting at, I believe. I don't know for sure, but yeah, quite spooky of a setting, and just again another perfect read for October. But yeah, those are the two Daphne du Maurier books I did choose to talk about here. But Rebecca Again, which I've already read, is another amazing read for October, and it's also a Netflix movie now, though I feel like the movie was not as good, to be very honest. And I just feel like anything Daphne du Maurier writes is just so atmospheric that it's just perfect for the season. The next book I want to talk about, which is another horror book, and that is Misery by Stephen King. Now, Stephen King is like the king of horror books, so I just decided to pick this one up. And I do also have The Shining by him somewhere in my bookshelf, but I have been really wanting to read this one because it's basically about this writer who gets kidnapped by like his #1 fan because he decides to kill off a character in the book he's writing, or I think the movie, I'm not sure, the book I think. And so basically this like #1 fan of his decides to kidnap him because, or abduct him, because he did not like that he killed off a character. And that just sounds so crazy to me as a reader, I feel, and it's just something I really want to read, and so I decided to mention this. But obviously anything by Stephen King is perfect for the season. Then I also wanted to mention the graphic novel Mooncakes. I forgot by who it is, but this is basically like a witchy graphic novel, which is kind of really like cute. I feel like I've not mentioned any witchy book so far, but this one has like baking in it, and I don't know the story, to be very honest, but I had seen Books with Chloe talk about it, and which is why I really want to read this again. And the setting is kind of like Halloween themed, so really excited to read that one as well. Now I have a few cozy books here with me. The first one here is The Little Book of Hygge, which is a non-fiction book, and this I feel is just perfect for the season because of how cozy it is. It's just got the perfect like ways to live feeling cozy, and Hygge does mean cozy, so it's just the Danish way to live a cozy life. And I definitely want to read this book as soon as I can because it just looks so warm. Then now I have another classic. This is a children's classic, and that is Anne of Green Gables by L.M. Montgomery. And this is just such a stunning edition. Again, it is a penguin cloth bound edition, or I would say the puffin cloth bound edition. And again, Anne of Green Gables is kind of like always talked about when people talk about, I feel like, cozy autumnal books. And I also have this like beautiful bookmark, which is a quote from Anne of Green Gables, which is why I felt like this book was just apt to be mentioned for October reads. And Anne just feels like such a beautiful character that I just really want to read about. But yeah, this is why I decided to mention her. I honestly don't know much about this except that Anne is an orphan, so I am going to go into this book quite blindly, but I like doing that. And I also had the second book from Anne of Green Gables with me just because I had purchased it, so I just thought I'll show it. I just love the beautiful cover on this one. This is again by Puffin Classics. I feel like there are many books in this series from what I recall. The next book I have is another kind of a non-fiction book, and that is Ex Libris. Now this is a book about books, and I feel like I would be reading this like 1 or 2 pages at a time because it's about like 100 books and there are reviews, so it's not meant to be read like, you know, in a single sitting or anything. And it's got some really wonderful illustrations from what I can tell. Yeah, it's got like book covers and stuff, and it just looks so cozy to just sit and read with a cup of tea. Just read like a review of a book or two and then decide which book you want to pick up based on the book. Yeah, that would be my ideal tea time. Then I have Pages & Co., which is a book series again by Anna James. I have the first 3 books in the series, and I believe that the 4th book was released this year. And this is again a book about this girl. It's a children's, like a middle grade book, and it's about this girl, Tilly, if I'm not wrong, yeah, Tilly, who grows up with her grandparents in a bookshop, and there's magic in here. I don't know the exact plot, but it just sounds so perfect for this season again. Magic, bookshops, and cozy settings are everything that one may like need for October. Yeah. So the next book is another like short middle grade book, and that is The Time of Green Magic. And I chose this one because again, it is a middle grade and it's got some spooky things in it and like a spooky setting and ghosts in it. So basically we have these children, I forgot their names, it's Abby and her two stepbrothers Max and Louis, and they've moved into this new house and there's like spooky things happening in the house, but only the children can actually observe them, and like the adults don't really see anything. And that's the setting of the book, and it just sounds perfect again for this season, I feel. And it's so short as well, it could be honestly read in a single sitting. So the next book is Nevermore by Jessica Townsend, and this book is often compared to Harry Potter and it's quite popular on BookTube. I do not have the second book in the series, but it's basically about Morgan Crow, and she's said to be like this cursed child as far as I can remember. That does sound a lot like Harry Potter now that I think of it, but no, that was the last book, the Harry Potter and the Cursed Child, that I thought of. But anyway, so that's all I know about it, and all I know is there's magic involved, and my description is so off, but I have not read the synopsis of this, so I'm just going to go into it blindly, to be very honest. Yeah, that is another popular BookTube book that I just thought I'll throw in here because I own it. And the last book series I have all the 3 books in the series, and that is these books. So I have all the 3 books in here, and just look at the covers, they're just so beautiful. Oh, I'm holding them upside down. There we go. They are so beautiful. So I'll just hold one book in my hand. So the first book in the series is A Pinch of Magic, and this is again about these 3 sisters and a curse on their family, and that is the first book setting. I don't know about the other 2 obviously because I'll just spoil myself, but it does involve magic, and I think they're like witches if I'm not wrong, but it just sounds so wonderful. I had actually started this book a while ago and I already have a bookmark in it as well, which is so beautiful. This was made by Gosselia, who had given me like she sent me a box of all her artwork, but it's just perfect for this book. I had started this book, but I had stopped in the middle because I was not in the mood for a magical read back then, but I definitely want to read this sometime soon again. Those are all of the books that I wanted to talk about. I feel like this video is going to be 100 years long. I hope not. I really hope you enjoyed this video, and do let me know if you have any other books that you can suggest to read in October. I feel like there are so many books that you can read because there's just so many cozy books out there, and magical books. A lot of fantasy is also perfect for the season, like Outlander or The Lord of the Rings and Game of Thrones, which I haven't read or watched yet. I do need to read that. And I also have a 24-hour readathon coming, like a video that I filmed trying the 24-hour readathon, in which I also read some autumnal books that I will link here if I have already uploaded it. But yeah, that was another fun video I filmed, and there were some other books I read besides the books that I mentioned here, so do check that out if you want to. And yeah, I'll see you soon in a new video. Take care and stay safe and stay cozy as well. Bye. Happy reading.